everyone, we're ready to go ahead and get started with our last session of the day before we have our 18 game meeting. We have with us from the state of Tennessee, we have Daniel Leeson and Maggie Wilson here to talk to us about Tennessee statewide contract subscriptions, and we're doing another live one, so we're live on YouTube again.
Hello, YouTube. Hello, everybody. My name is Daniel Leeson. I work in the Central Procurement Office.
Move the microphone up to you.
Yeah, sorry, I had that for my height.
No, you're fine. Can you all hear me? Good in the back. Okay. So my name is Daniel Leeson. I work in the Central Procurement Office. I brought Maggie with me today. We're going to be talking about statewide contracts, but before we get into discussing statewide contracts, I want to make you all aware of a new subscription communication tool we have coming down the pipe, which will essentially allow you all to subscribe to different types of feed of information that comes out of our office. Ooh. Thank you. That's what I was looking for. I appreciate that.
Could you repeat that, please?
Yes, so we have a subscription communication tool coming out in the very near future. It'll probably be the first quarter of next year. And what that's going to allow you to do is subscribe to certain types of information you want to hear about, whether that's policy. Right now, I just kind of want to high level tell you about our challenges since I've been with the state in regards to communicating with the locals. The first of which is proactive communication. We are very proactive with our communication, but we also, what I've come to notice, is require you all to be proactive as well. Whether that's coming to our meetings, or whether that's going to our websites to see if anything's changed, or doing a web conference. The reality is, you're all busy people. You may not have the time of day to come to a meeting, or to go to our website and look at every single statewide contract just to see if anything has changed. Another big challenge for us is updating our customers. We have a lot of different people out there that utilize our statewide contracts or that are connected to our office with a lot of different needs. And it's difficult enough for us just to find those people. And then even when we do find those people, it's a matter of what do they really want to hear about. Another challenge, opportunity for us regarding statewide contracts is providing customers the opportunity to meaningfully participate in the development of statewide contracts. For us at the state, it's very easy for us to get in touch with the agencies. Usually they're the ones driving the creation of the statewide contract. But the reality is we don't always know exactly who we need to talk to at the local level. What are their concerns? What do they want included in the scope? How can we leverage our purchasing power? This can pose a challenge for us because usually when the agencies have an idea for a statewide contract, they want it in place ASAP. And getting feedback from the locals in a timely manner can be quite difficult. And then we would like to improve overall satisfaction and communication around our statewide contracts. Now, in my opinion, I think if we improve our communication, then inevitably, I would think that we're going to improve your all satisfaction with our communication. And lastly, feedback. Allow our customers the opportunity to provide feedback. This is a help us, help you, help us all. At the end of the day, we really do value your input, and it would make for better statewide contracts and better purchasing across the whole state if we really had a chance to hear what you all had to say. And not just with statewide contracts, but with how we're communicating. And like I said, right now, we're probably not doing the best job of it. We're asking you all to go to our website, and that can be very difficult. So obviously, the biggest feature of this subscription communication tool is going to be preferred communication. We'll send targeted information to those who want to hear it. Now, we're not going to sign up every single local because, honestly, we probably don't even know the vast majority of your names. But we are going to provide an avenue for you all to be able to subscribe to the types of information you want to hear about. Another feature of this tool that we're coming out with, we'll have the ability to track performance. So we'll be able to see exactly whether or not you're opening up our emails. It'll probably be on a monthly basis. We'll probably have some policy set in place where if you haven't opened up an email in 6 months, we're going to unsubscribe you. There's a chance you may have found a new job or you just don't care about that information anymore. But there will be information related to those policies along with the subscription when it becomes available. And then we'll be able to learn from your preferences. Not only can we see what emails you're looking at, but we'll be able to see exactly what you're clicking on within that email. And then there'll be the feedback feature. I know I keep talking about feedback, but this will be feedback in several different areas, whether it's the development of a statewide contract, whether it's just telling us how our communication looks, what you want to hear more of, what you would like to see more of, all of that. We want to provide avenues for you all to give us your input. And then professionalism. These are going to be emails, and I know what you're thinking, Daniel, a statewide contract, there's a lot that goes on with our statewide contracts in a month. Well, our vision is, with this tool we're utilizing, is it'll be an email that has a table of contents at the top that may have various categories within that table of contents, whether that's renewals, upcoming contracts, emergency notifications, or amendments to contracts. Those contracts will be listed under those categories, and then all you would have to do is simply click on the one that you're interested on, or the ones you're interested on, and it'll immediately take you to that location within the email chain, or redirect you to a site, or to someone's email, whatever it may be. And lastly, the additional applications of CPO is there's going to be targeted emails to update customers. Now, as I pointed out earlier, it's not going to be just statewide contracts. I thought that would be probably the one you all would benefit the most from. We're going to have a lot of different types of feed, and here's the few that I thought may touch you all. There's statewide contracts, changes to policy and procedures, and diversity updates. I don't know if we have any attorneys in the room, but they may not care about our statewide contracts. They may only care about what are the new policies we're coming out with, what terms are we putting in place, what terms are we modifying, how are we protecting cyber insurance. There's a lot of, we're in an age where technology is taking over and terms are changing drastically. We're hoping that this will also not only allow us to plan for future success, but you all as well. And what I mean by that is not just getting contracts that are tailored to the locals as well, but also, I hope this doesn't happen, but I could see a world where, you're looking to put a contract in place. You spend 3-4 months bidding it out, putting time, putting in resources, only to find out 2 months after it's in place, there's a statewide contract that comes out that has much better pricing and a much bigger scope. We would like to avoid those, so we're hoping that it can plan for future success, not only with us, but with you all as well. And lastly, the opportunity for continual improvement and feedback. When I say continual improvement and feedback, as I mentioned earlier, I'm not just talking about the way we communicate, but literally everything you all touch in our office. We want to hear what you all have to say. And I think if we combined our powers, we could make the purchasing world so much better for all of us and a lot easier for all of us. We're hoping to have this in place, like I said, in the first quarter of 2018 is our goal. And the idea is to have a link for you all to subscribe on our main CPO website. So that is the idea right now, and I'll be sending information to Terry and a few others I'm aware of when it does become available to disseminate that to you all so you're made aware. And with that being said, now we'll actually start talking about statewide contracts. I just thought that was worth sharing with you all, something coming down the pipe, and I'm going to hand it on over to Maggie so she can tell you all what you all came to hear.
Hey guys, bye. All right, as Daniel said, we've got our contact information here for y'all, and if you have any questions, once we're finished up, we're gonna, take a few minutes to go over any questions that you guys have based on the information we provide. But we wanted to at least provide y'all with a little bit of our contact information. So if you do have questions that come up, maybe if they're not today, later on, and going over everything, we're happy to answer them. So some of the things that typically everyone's interested in hearing about are what is a statewide contract and who can use them? One of the questions that I get frequently from local government users is, who can use it? Am I authorized to use it? And what would I need to do in order to actually use it? The Edison functionality in the supplier portal. Edison is the e-procurement system that we utilize to put together our procurements and contracts and items. And within that, there's this supplier portal. And that's where we house all of our contract documents and the line items at Tennessee Smart Shop, which we'll also talk about. And kind of giving you a little bit more ideas about where everything's located on our website and the research and development that goes into us building out some of our contracts, benefits of using statewide contracts, and then how to locate open procurements if you're interested to see what may become available sometime soon. And lastly, how to go over how to use Tennessee Smart Shop. So, as mentioned, statewide contracts are typically, previously they were only open, well, suppliers had the option to opt out sometimes from extending pricing on statewide contracts to locals. That has since changed. So suppliers are required now to provide contract pricing to all local government entities. And I've got everything listed here in terms of who all that applies to, but it includes all local government agencies, UT and the Tennessee Board of Regents system, any nonprofit or higher education charter in Tennessee, and any corporation exempt from taxes. It applies to more people sometimes than they may realize. Even utility boards, airport authorities, so more entities that can take advantage of it than you may think. And these are some of the statutes that go into it. If you ever need to reference any of what that derives from, this is where that language comes from. So Edison and the supplier portal. It is basically where you're going to find a lot of great information about our contracts, the terms and conditions, line items, any kind of details that go along with it. You'll find that there. So what do you guys do most often? Like to hear it from y'all. Where do you guys go typically when you're trying to find the Central Procurement Office website?
CPO main page.
Okay. Yeah, Google, CPO's main page. So basically, trying to navigate through that, I know there's a lot of clicks. So I wanted to kind of walk everyone through where you would go on our website to actually find that. So on our main page, you scroll down and click on Procurement, Local Government Units, and you'll get this page. And here you can find procurement information, you've got usage instructions. One of the great things that we've done over the last few years is create usage instructions for all of our statewide contracts, which includes supplier contact information, our contact information in terms of who's managing the contract, start dates and end dates, kind of high level details about the terms in terms of payment terminology and anything that's kind of off what you would normally see, just kind of high level details, things that you may want to know about, and kind of one quick synopsis. And a lot of people are finding that it's giving them the information that they need. They would have had to come over quite a few documents to try and find all of that. This will give you kind of a brief information guide with all of that right there. So under the statewide contract search, you'll eventually get from here, this is the supplier portal, and click on statewide contract search. And under that, you locate the statewide contract that you're interested in looking at. One of the things that you'll find in looking at it is that it's slightly out of order in terms of the contract number. So it's not going to be sequential that way, it's going to be in alphabetical order. So if you're looking specifically for a certain contract number or name, or you're not even sure if there's a statewide available for that particular item or service, you can just use Control F and type in your keyword and see if there's anything that hits on there, or just finding it's a really long list. So sometimes just trying to scroll through and find what you need quickly, it's a great tool. So office supplies is one of the more frequently used contracts for a lot of the locals, and it also happens to be one of the contracts that I manage. So I'm happy to answer any questions about that contract. I know I can't speak to all of them, but any questions that you guys do have about office supplies, that is one of the contracts I do manage. So what you can access from this page from here, once you've selected the contract that you're interested in finding, you can not only get the contract documents, but you can also get the line items. And I know on our old webpage, it's kind of a yellow screen, if you guys remember. You can easily see the contractor's name and the line items, kind of quick details. If you click on the line items, you will actually get to see all of the line items that are in contract. You'll get the individual's name that manages the contract, their phone number, and the supplier's name, start dates and end dates of the contract. So it's a good way to kind of get a quick idea about, who you need to touch base with and what's covered under that contract. Another thing about that too is that when you go and click on it, you'll get all the line items. You can create an Excel download, so you can actually go through and export that and get that and save it as a document. So this shows you a little bit more of the functionality. You can actually see all the various line items and all the detail that's included. So for office supplies, these are some of the attachments that you would see there. It includes the actual contract document, the terms, the price list, and even the procurement documents. So if you wanted to see, how we got to where we are, or if you needed additional information, there's a lot out there that most of us will have out there for our contracts. So what goes into statewide contract development, and how are we coming to the final result? So one of the main things that we do in preparation for re-procurements is evaluating the current contract and how well it's worked. One of the things that I try and do for all of my contracts is look at the contract volume and whether or not it's aligned with what you anticipated in the procurement, and how closely. You're never going to get something that's going to be right on target, but if it's way off from what you previously had thought it was going to be, it means you've got a lot of work to do. So sometimes there's a lot of changes you need to make. Most of our contracts are anywhere from 3 to 5 years, so a lot can change between that time period, and it's important to make sure that you're looking at all of that and factoring in to make sure that the contract ultimately is meeting your needs. So with that, that's identifying prospective suppliers, advancements in the industry, studying the market and price drivers, service levels or expected deliverables, and comparing pricing to other states and cooperatives. We do a lot of benchmarking to make sure that our pricing is competitive, or at least in line with what we find in the general marketplace. There aren't always going to be statewide or cooperatives that maybe align exactly with our statewide. I know one of the contracts that I previously managed, forestry and agricultural supplies, we are the only state that has that. So we are very unique that way. And it's a great option to have. It kind of supports some of the additional contracts that we also have that may or may not be a good fit and helps to provide an additional outlet. So we generally try and look at other states and cooperatives for their contract information and find new ways to do things. So why utilize statewide contracts? Well, the products and services were procured through a competitive process with negotiated pricing. You can avoid the lengthy time. I know it's very time consuming to go through a procurement and gather all those materials. I know each of our teams, we've got a commodities team, a services team, and a high-tech team that manages statewide contracts. And each of those teams has 5 people on them. And I'm guessing that most of you guys probably have maybe 5 people doing all of that work just yourselves, if that. So it's a lot to manage and a lot to handle. So we're happy to work with you guys to make all of that a lot easier for yourselves. We manage the contracts day to day. We help troubleshoot if there's ever a problem with a supplier. I know I'm always happy to go to bat, whether it's one of our agencies or if it's a local government entity. I'm more than happy to try and resolve whatever's going on and get whatever you guys need done. So in terms of looking for opportunities for procurements, there are various places that you can find that. You can find them in the supplier portal. We also advertise invitations to bid and RFPs that may be on the sourcing side. Daniel's on the sourcing team, and that would be more agency term contracts. There are some agency term contracts that may be open to locals. Not all of them are, but it's worth noting. And Tennessee Smart Shop. It's essentially a marketplace that is a shoppable experience for people to go and look at some of the items and services that are available on contract that you may not get just from the experience of actually reading the contract. So you can search. Some of the functionality that you can get is that it is an online shopping experience. You can search across multiple suppliers and catalogs. So that allows you to do some comparison shopping. You can look at additional features and benefits that may be associated with those items, and just determining that, whether or not those items actually meet your needs. Sometimes, the detail that's associated with the line items on contract may be truncated. It may not be enough information to really determine what the item is. So this helps to provide some of that supplemental information that can get you to what you need. And this is what the landing page looks like. In order for locals to use it, there's a sign up. You get a user ID and a login, and register. Once you get there, there's going to be various opportunities to look at all the suppliers. This is the starting page once you do log in. And when you do a simple search, you'll be able to find some of that detail that I already discussed. So some of the product information, manufacturer, the item number, and sometimes there is some crossover between contracts, which is worth noting. A lot of times we'll get questions from agency users and from locals about what contract to use and when. Just because we've got a lot of these suppliers now that are kind of catch-alls. Granger and Staples are good examples of that. They're kind of everything to everyone. And who do you use? If you find the same item being provided from multiple entities, which contract is the right contract to use? So this gives you a little bit more functionality in terms of trying to determine what item you need, who can provide it, and what the best pricing is. So these are some of the suppliers that we've got on contract. It's everything from medical supplies to office supplies, laboratory equipment and supplies, copy paper. There's a lot of different things on there. And so definitely worth looking through to see what we've got. And here's another screenshot of the comparison features where you can actually look at the pricing, the item detail, and what's included with that. You can actually add items to your cart. You can't fully check out as a local, like you would if you were a state agency user, but it does allow you to build out a shopping cart. So with that, you essentially go to checkout and you contact the supplier with that order sheet. It'll give you what basically looks like this, and you would contact the supplier with the supplier information that's provided and reach out to them and place your order that way. right. Any questions, guys?
How do you know when a local government uses a state contract?
That's a great question. So one of the things that we do in addition to evaluating and analyzing the data that we receive from our contracts is getting supplier data. So we get a lot of, in fact, almost all of our information about local government usage from those reports that our suppliers provide, and getting all the details associated with it. I think one of the big things that we're trying to do with that is get our suppliers to accurately report that information. I think there's sometimes a lack of knowledge about what qualifies or is classified as a local government entity versus a state entity, or what should be included in that report. Sometimes we will relate with information from some of our locals that they're actually using a contract where we're receiving a report and there's 0 spent reported. So we're very reliant on our suppliers to get us accurate information, and that's part of the contract management feature. As contract managers, we're really trying to drill down and make sure that we get not only the best contract in terms of pricing and items, but also making sure that we get accurate information. If you're not getting accurate information from your suppliers about all of that, you're doing everyone a disservice, because ultimately, when you go to re-procure that, you're not accurately covering all the items and services that are currently being used to the level that they're being used. So one of the things that we did, for instance, with all the suppliers, was incorporate local spend into our re-procurement. So we are picking up what you guys are purchasing, and including that in our funds. I know recently I actually re-procured IMS gases, industrial, medical, and specialty gases, and a great deal of that contract volume was local. So I actually looked at who was purchasing based on the vendor reporting, and reached out to those entities and made sure that they were aware, got their feedback, and gave them an opportunity to provide their input as we were building out the event. So we definitely, like Daniel said, we definitely want to hear from you guys, and we are so looking forward to getting your feedback and more information and making it more of a two-way conversation, or a conversation at all. But I'm so appreciative that you welcomed us here today and gave us the opportunity to speak. Yes,
I have a question. It's about a company called Acela, and I'm sure you're familiar with it. They provide software mainly to governments, and probably a lot of government bodies here are familiar with Acela software. But do you all offer? I could not find a statewide contract with Acela software, and I'm not sure that they offer that, because they're so, I mean, that's kind of their principal line of business anyway. So I'm not sure they would set that up with you, since they kind of, that's their market anyway. Do you know anything about that?
I don't. That would be more, since I'm on the commodities team.
And that's technical.
Yeah, that's on the tech team.
Okay.
And I can certainly find out some more information about it.
It would be good, because it would be so great if we could have that. I just don't know if the company itself would, if it would behoove them to even offer that.
Absolutely.
Because that's their niche.
Absolutely.
So, yeah. But yeah, if you could, that would be great.
Sure. Absolutely. If you don't mind, after, just give me your contact information.
Thank you.
Any other questions or concerns?
Did you have your vendors, if they're a contract type vendor, update like their contract license or insurance requirements? Is that something that you routinely check?
Yes, we actually have, that's another thing that we didn't talk about today, but it's worth noting. We actually have a compliance team internally within the Central Procurement Office, and they work with the suppliers and the agencies to make sure that not only are the agencies utilizing the contracts correctly, but that suppliers are being held accountable when necessary. So that factors into it, making sure that we've got all of the most up-to-date and accurate information about where their insurance is, whether or not they're registered, just getting all of that information updated as needed.
I had an issue with one of your contracts that I had requested a copy of their contractor's license and a certificate of insurance, and I've been waiting for about a month to get it.
Okay. I'll talk to you. I'll grab you afterwards. That's okay.
We're from West Tennessee.
Yes.
And is there any way when you solicit the bids that you include West Tennessee vendors? Because I noticed most of the statewide contracts are Middle Tennessee and East Tennessee, very few West Tennessee vendors. So I don't know if you solicit them at all. Is there a reason why that is? Or take vehicles for instance.
Okay.
Most of them are Middle Tennessee or East. So I was just curious if you do anything to solicit those vendors.
Yeah, we definitely look at, I can't speak to that contract specifically. I can certainly find out for you. That's also on my team. I don't manage that, but basically, as we're putting together, part of the evaluation, when we're putting together our solicitation materials, building out the evaluation and all of that, we're looking into some of that rogue spend and where people may have purchased outside of our existing contracts. So are there suppliers, is there interest outside of, the people that we're currently utilizing? And, are there capabilities elsewhere that we could be using? So we definitely explore that in terms of, forcing someone to actually bid on the event. We can't. So we have found in the past, even having those conversations with people, sometimes they don't end up bidding, even though we work with them to notify them and give them the opportunity. So a lot of it is kind of a two-way street, being proactive about updating your supplier information, making sure that you are signed up to get all those notifications, and then revisiting our website for events and everything. Yeah.
Just real quick, the reality may be they're just not winning contracts. And I say that because they register with Edison, or if they're not, then they're not going to receive those notifications unless they go to our website. But I know that the vehicles one was fairly competitive, and at the end of the day, if it's west, if it's middle, if it's east, it's really who is giving us the best deal, and we don't,
I understand that part,
right.
Debbie, something that Franklin is chewing on is putting the link to the state's vendor registration portal on our website so that our vendors might ask themselves, hey, maybe I should go to the state's vendor registration. And this is sort of a grain of sand in a whole beach, but if all of us encouraged our vendor community to go to the vendor registration portal for the state, maybe some of our own local vendors would be better represented in state contracts. Just a thought.
And I think that's a great idea, and I will say if you ever want on our website, or you could just reach out to us, we have training material on how to register in Edison with the state of Tennessee. So if you all wanted, we could provide you with that PDF document. You could upload it to your site and say you can also register utilizing this document with Edison. But I think that's a great idea.
Absolutely. Yeah, we have some really great job aids. The accessibility may not be there completely to locals because a lot of that is on our internal intranet. But if there's ever anything that you guys have questions about, there may be a job aid, and you know what, there may be an opportunity for us to create a job aid. I've definitely seen that in the past where we have people's interest in various areas and there's not enough information or instruction. So we're willing to put all of that together for you guys. Anything else? Well, we thank you so much for having us, and look forward to working with you guys. Awesome.